Shin Godzilla from 2016, directed by the great Hideaki Anno, was the first Japanese Godzilla movie to come out in a long time at the time, and it's a movie that, quite frankly, changed my life. Up until Godzilla Minus One came out, Shin Godzilla was my favorite movie of all time, my favorite Godzilla movie. I was obsessed with this movie around the first time I saw it. My Instagram was basically a Shin Godzilla fan site for a while. I was just reposting fan art from this movie. I really was obsessed with it. I saw it 4 times in the theater during the first run, and then there was a rerun a couple years ago where I saw it again, and they just reran it in theaters again, so I was able to see it for the 6th time. And my wife, God bless her, this is the 3rd time she's seen it in a theater with me because I keep dragging her to come see it. Having said all that, this is not a movie that I would give a blanket recommendation. Now, Godzilla Minus One, blanket recommendation. If you have the gift of vision and hearing, you should see Godzilla Minus One. Shin Godzilla is a little bit of a different beast. It's definitely a niche movie and not just a Godzilla film that anybody can watch. It really focuses on the bureaucracy and the political drama of the Japanese government. And what this means in watching the film is that a lot of the 2-hour runtime is taken up by groups of people in meetings talking to each other, arguing, trying to feel their way through this disaster through a bureaucratic system that is as frustrating and inefficient as you could possibly imagine. This leads to some comedic moments for sure, but it also leads some people to really not jive with this movie at all, which I find completely understandable. This movie introduced me to one of my favorite actresses, Mikako Ichikawa, who plays the scientist Hiromi Oshiguro, who is one of my favorite characters in this movie. And even though it's not for everybody, I consider it an almost perfect movie. The one glaring thing that always sticks out to me in this movie is that there's a character named Kyoko Ann Patterson who is supposed to be a natural-born U.S. citizen who's also a politician who's involved in this situation. But the actress who played her did not speak any English. So the parts where she speaks English, she has a thick Japanese accent, and it kind of can lead to confusion, but also just breaks the illusion that she's supposed to be this American politician. I've even thought of doing my own fan edit of this movie to use the English dub in the parts where she speaks English, but I don't know how that would come out. So yeah, most people who like Godzilla have probably seen this movie. If you've only seen Godzilla Minus One, you may want to try Shin Godzilla, but just be warned, it's a completely different movie. And if you've never seen a Godzilla movie and you want to try and get into them, I would recommend the original from 1954 or Godzilla Minus One. Alone is a cat and mouse thriller from 2020 that stars Jules Wilcox as Jessica, a woman who in the beginning of the movie is moving on from something that happened in her life. She's packing up a trailer and hitting the road, and we don't get the context for why she's doing this until later in the movie. But soon into her road trip, she begins to be stalked by a man who is a nameless character through the movie, played by Mark Menchaca. The movie is kind of split into sections where first we're on the road trip and then we're somewhere else, and it really gives the movie a nice pacing, the way it's cut up into chunks. The gimmick, if you will, in this movie is that the character of Jessica is not a hapless moron. She makes some smart decisions, and it makes the movie interesting to see how she uses her ingenuity to attempt to escape her pursuer. I thought this was a good thriller. It's very suspenseful. There's some really dark and nasty moments, and definitely a pretty satisfying payoff. I don't think I've seen either one of these actors in anything else, but they both did a great job. It's funny because Mark Menchaca is a pretty imposing looking dude, but they try to Ned Flanders him up with this mustache and glasses. So he's in this kind of uncanny valley of threateningness on a visual level, and I really liked that. But he also has some lines and I wouldn't say catchphrases, but some of the things he says in this movie don't really hit the mark as far as being nasty or threatening. They're just kind of stupid. But that happens in a lot of thrillers. And like I said, this movie was decent. It reminded me a lot of Don't Move from last year, which is a film I probably enjoyed a little bit better than this one, but they're both competent, good cat and mouse thrillers. So check them out if you're into that kind of thing. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is a fictionalized account of just that, starring Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. This movie came out in 2007, and I watched it as a buddy watch with a coworker of mine, Joe. So shout out to Joe for picking this movie. I think both of us enjoyed it quite a bit. Essentially, the entire plot of the movie is laid out in the title, but that doesn't mean it's not worth going on this journey. And what I loved about this movie is that it is told in a way that you would tell a legend, in a sense that Jesse James is the hero, Robert Ford is the villain, and the movie portrays that in such a good way, not just with the acting, but in the way the story is presented. It's hard to put into words without just explaining what they do, but let's just say this movie in and of itself dunks on Robert Ford in its stylistic choices, which I thought was something really interesting and cool about this movie. Brad Pitt, of course, is great in this, but I really thought Casey Affleck stole the show, portraying a low-status male, an ankle-biting wannabe, in such a great way. His obsession with Jesse James, his scheming to be part of the crew, his manipulation and trying to position himself in a place of, let's say, power, which he will never be able to achieve. I really liked all this stuff. The movie does run 2.5 hours long, and at times it felt like a very long movie, and I'm definitely not going to run to rewatch it again, but it was a good movie to sit through one time and just absorb the story and the performances. I think if you're seeing this footage, or if you've seen a trailer and you like what you see, you know you're going to get some enjoyment out of this movie. So if you like this kind of movie, definitely go for it. The Swimmer from 1968 really blew me away because I thought it was going to be some kind of horror movie. I went into it blind, not knowing what to expect, and this movie really unfolds in one of the most interesting journeys I've ever seen in a film that really kept me guessing. This movie is about Burt Lancaster's character, Ned, who is in tight swim trunks for the entire movie, who tells his friends that he's going to swim in everybody's swimming pool on his way home from this one friend's house where he's at in the beginning. And everybody says, "Oh, Nettie, that's such a weird idea." And he said, "No, I'm going to swim all the way home." So this is his journey to get home. Off the bat, oh, that's a goofy concept. What is this goofy guy going to do? But as the movie unfolds, we realize there's something else going on here. Something is up with this guy. And through his interactions with the other characters, I really couldn't tell, is he some kind of creep or is he just a lowlife? What is really going on here? He's very charismatic and it seems like everybody around him likes him, but I feel like I've already said too much by revealing that that may not be the case. I don't know how many Burt Lancaster films I've seen. I don't think I've seen too many, but he was awesome in this. The whole rest of the cast was great too. What really is amazing about this film, besides the multiple layers of the story and what you can take away from it, are the visuals. This movie was directed by Frank Perry and apparently had a bunch of reshoots included that were done after the fact by Sidney Pollack. And there is one or two parts in the movie where you can tell that you just went from an original shot to a reshoot, but it doesn't break the immersion too much because there are some incredible sequences of nature and close-ups, and I can't even really describe it. It's almost hypnotic what they were able to do here, and way ahead of its time. I feel like I had quite a journey with this movie because at first I was kind of writing it off in my head as like boomer trash, like this guy is just this wish fulfillment fantasy kind of thing of a man who's just drifting through life, kind of being the party guy, doing whatever he wants. But as I thought through it, I think this movie is a lesson about how you can pay the price for living that way. And again, I'm analyzing a movie without spoiling it in a way, so you really have to see this. I'm looking forward to rewatching this after it's kind of settled down in my mind even more, and I'd love to add it to my collection at some point. And that'll do it for another episode. If you like these short movie reviews, I have a whole playlist of them on my channel. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.